Okay, let's have our sixth item. So, let's solve for the roots of this quadratic equation using extraction. So, itong quadratic equation natin, we have the square quantity of x plus 8 minus 11 equals 70. So, ang first step natin dito is ma-isolate yung ating variable x because we're applying extraction. So, para ma-isolate natin yung variable x natin, we have to remove negative 11, positive 8, and itong exponent na 2. So, para matanggal yon, unahin natin yung constant natin na negative 11. Okay? So, ano yung opposite ng negative 11? Positive 11. So, we have to add both sides by positive 11. Okay, add both sides by 11 para matanggal yung negative 11 natin. So, ang matitira sa left side will be square quantity of x plus 8. Yung 11, maka-cancel out na siya. Tapos, 70 plus 11 will give us 81. Okay. Next, let's look at our equation. So, ang susunod nating tatanggalin will be the exponent. Kasi hindi natin pwedeng galawin yung nasa loob ng parenthesis hanggat hindi natin tinatanggal yung exponent nila. So, we have to get the square root of both sides para matanggal yung ating exponent na 2. So, the square root of the square quantity of x plus 8 will give us x plus 8. Tapos, yung square root of 81, okay, since perfect square siya, that will give us positive negative 9. So, take note, every time na gagamitin natin yung square root property or getting the square root of both sides of the equation, we have to get both positive and negative root of that number. Then, ang next step natin is kailangan nating matanggal tong positive 8. So, anong opposite ni positive 8? Siyempre, ang opposite niya is negative 8. So, we have to subtract both sides by 8. So, para ma-cancel out yung constant natin na 8. So, matitira sa left side will be x. Yung 8 natin, maka-cancel out na siya. Tapos, positive negative 9 minus 8. So, kopyahin natin siya in this form. We will have it as negative 8 plus minus 9. Kasi dalawa yung operation ni 9. Isang i-add natin at isang minus. Okay? So, start tayo with pag-add ng dalawang numbers natin. Negative 8 plus 9. So, negative 8 plus 9, that will give us positive 1. Okay? Now, subtract naman natin. So, x is equal to negative 8 minus 9. So, negative 8 minus 9, that will give us negative 17. So, dalawang value of x natin for this equation. We have x being equal to negative 17 and 1. And that's it. Ta-da! Alright. Okay, let's have our seventh item. Let's solve for the roots of this quadratic equation using extraction. So, we have the equation square quantity x minus 5 plus 12 is equal to 30. So, ang gagawin natin para ma-solve tong equation na to is we have to isolate the variable x. So, kailangan nating tanggalin si positive 12, yung exponent na 2, at yung negative 5 para ma-isolate natin yung variable x na yon. So, simulan natin sa constant na positive 12. So, hanap tayo ng opposite ni positive 12. So, ang opposite niya is negative 12. So, let's subtract both sides by 12. So, kung anong gagawin sa left side, ganun din yung gagawin natin sa right side. That's the rule sa pagsosolve ng equation. Okay. Then, let's simplify. So, ang matitira sa left side will be the squared quantity of x minus 5. Tapos, yung 12 and negative 12, makaka-cancel out na yan kasi magiging 0 siya. Tapos, 30 minus 12, that will give us 18. Ayan. Then, let's remove the exponent. Kasi hindi natin magagalaw yung nasa loob ng grouping symbol hanggat hindi natin natatanggal yung exponent sa kanila. So, we need to remove the exponent 2 by getting the square root of both sides or applying the square root property. So, we get the square root of the squared quantity x minus 5. That will give us x minus 5. So, wala na siyang grouping symbol. Yung square root of 18 naman, 18 is not a perfect square. Pero, pwede natin siyang i-simplify. Kasi, one of the factors of 18 ay perfect square. So, isip tayo ng factors ni 18 na perfect square. And that will give us 9 times 2. So, we factor 18 na lalabas yung perfect square factor niya, which is 9. And yung other factor, which is 2. Let's get the square root of 9 and square root of 2 separately para ma-simplify natin. So, we have x minus 5 will be equal to the square root of 9, which is 3. And the square root of 2, which will be square root of 2 pa rin. Kasi hindi na natin siya masisimplify. Now, take note that since we apply the square root property, we need to get both positive and negative roots of our radical. So, ang lumabas, positive, negative, 3 square root of 2. Now, yung equation natin, we have x minus 5 is equal to positive, negative, 3 square root of 2. Ang susunod nating step is tatanggalin natin si negative 5 sa left side natin. Number opposite negative 5 will be positive 5. And we have to add both sides by 5. Okay, so let's simplify. So ang matitira will be x. Yung negative 5 plus 5, it will cancel out. Tapos we will have positive negative 3 square root of 2 plus 5. So, sulat muna natin siya in this form. So, we will have 5 plus minus 3 square root of 2. Now, take note, in adding radicals, kailangan pareho silang merong square root of 2. Since 5 doesn't have any square root of 2, yung ating equation will remain 5 plus minus 3 square root of 2. So, hindi natin pwedeng i-add si 5 at si 3 kasi hindi sila like radicals. Okay? So, this will be our final answer. So, separate lang natin siya. We will have x being equal to 5 plus 3 square root of 2. That's the first one. And the second one is 5 minus 3 square root of 2. That's it! Ta-da! Alright, let's solve for the roots of this quadratic equation using extraction. So, we're given x squared plus 12 is equal to negative 37. So, let's apply extraction. So, pag in-apply natin yung extraction, ang gagawin natin is we have to isolate the variable x dito sa ating equation. So, lipat natin si positive 12 sa kabilang side ng equation natin. So, let's subtract both sides by 12 para ma-isolate natin si x squared. So, subtracting both sides by 12, we will have x squared. So, natanggal na si positive 12. Tapos, negative 37 minus 12, that will be equal to negative 49. Now, let's remove the exponent 2 dun sa variable x natin by using the square root property. So, let's get the square root of both sides. So, the square root of x squared will be x. And the square root of negative 49, since pag in-encode yan sa calculator natin, syntax error or magma-math error. So, let's factor the square root of negative 49. So, yung square root of negative 49, it will be factored as 49 times negative 1. Okay. So, the square root of 49 is positive negative 7. So, positive negative kasi we use the square root property. And every time that we use square root property, we will get the positive and negative roots of that number. Okay, next, yung square root of negative 1. Now, the square root of negative 1, every time na may encounter natin yung square root of negative 1, it will be equal to I. So, I, ibig sabihin, imaginary unit. The square root of negative number is syntax error or math error sa calculator. So, to represent the square root of negative 1, we will use the variable I. So, the square root of negative 1 is I. Now, since nakuha na natin yung ating value of x, so the value of x of this quadratic equation will be equal to negative 7i and positive 7i. And that's it! Ta-da! Alright. Okay, let's solve for the roots of this quadratic equation using extraction. So, we're given x squared minus 9 is equal to negative 36. So, in using extraction, ang gagawin natin is i-isolate natin yung variable x and ililipat natin lahat ng nakapalibot na number kay x dun sa kabilang side. So, let's remove negative 9 and lipat natin sa kabilang side. So, let's add both sides by 9. Okay, para ma-cancel out natin yung 9. Ang matitira sa left side is x squared. At sa right side, negative 36 plus 9 will be equal to negative 27. Tapos, let's remove the exponent 2 dun sa ating variable x by using the square root property. We get the square root of both sides. So, the square root of x squared will be x. And yung square root of negative 27, since 27 is not a perfect square, we will factor negative 27. So, yung factors in negative 27 will be 9 times 3 times negative 1. Now, let's get the square root of each factor. So, we have x is equal to, the square root of 9 is positive negative 3. Take note that every time we get the square root of a number, we get the positive and negative roots of that number. Tapos, we know that square root of negative 1 is equal to I. So, lagay natin dito, I. Tapos, yung square root of 3 will be square root of 3 pa rin. Kasi hindi na natin siya pwedeng i-simplify. Now, let's write our final answer. The value of x will be equal to negative 3i square root of 3 and positive 3i square root of 3. And that's it. Ta-da! Alright. Okay, let's solve for the roots of this quadratic equation using extraction. So, we're given the square quantity of x minus 5 plus 6 is equal to negative 18. Para masagutan natin tong quadratic equation na to, let's remove all the numbers surrounding x para maiwan na lang yung variable x dito sa left side. So, tanggalin muna natin si positive 6, lipat natin sa kabila by subtracting both sides by 6. So, tanggalin natin yung 6. Matitira sa left side is the squared quantity of x minus 5 and negative 18 minus 6, that will give us negative 24. Our next step is for us to remove the exponent 2 para ma-isolate natin yung variable x. So, let's use the square root property by getting the square root of both sides. So, magiging x minus 5 yung nasa left side. Yung square root of negative 24, since hindi siya perfect square, we have to get the factors of negative 24. So, yung factors in negative 24, we have 4 times 6 times negative 1. Now, we have x minus 5, tas kunin natin yung square root ni 4. That will give us positive negative 2. Take note that when we use the square root property, we need to get both positive and negative roots. Tapos, let's get the square root of negative 1. So, the square root of negative 1 will give us an imaginary unit. So, it will be equal to I. So, square root of negative 1, that will give us I. Tapos, square root of 6 will be square root of 6. So, hindi na natin masisimplify yung square root of 6. Now that we have the simplified form of square root of negative 24, ang susunod nating step, ililipat natin si negative 5 sa kabilang side ng equation natin. To do that, we have to add both sides by 5. So, makakancel na yung negative 5 pati positive 5. Ang matitira sa left side will be x. And yung nasa right side natin magiging 5 plus minus 2i square root of 6. Now, take note, hindi natin pwedeng i-add si positive negative 2 at si 5 kasi yung 2, meron siyang I at meron siyang square root of 6. Hindi sila like terms. So, since hindi sila like terms, we cannot combine 5 and 2i. So, since hindi na natin sila ma-add, our value of x will be equal to 5 plus minus 2i square root of 6. And that's it! Ta-da! Alright. And that is it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have comments, questions, recommendations, suggestions for my next video, please leave them in our comment section below. Share this video and subscribe. And for more videos like this, you can go to my channel, Teacher Justin. And that is it for today. Again, I'm Teacher Justin. Goodbye, God bless, and stay safe. See you on my next video. Peace.